Hello friends, and welcome to Makers Monday with Miss Abby. I'm Miss Abby from the La Crosse Public Library, and today I'm going to be bringing you a paint-along activity. So we will be making poppy flowers. If you've picked up your kit from the main library, you should have a canvas, some paintbrushes, and some paint to complete this craft. Now, poppies are usually red flowers, but if you have additional supplies at home, maybe different color paints, you could create a rainbow colored garden or you could create your own type of flower. You don't have to necessarily follow along exactly. You can be as creative and as unique as you'd like, but I will take us through step by step if you'd like to make a canvas similar to this, how to do it. So with that, let's begin. All right, friends, let's get started painting. So in your kit from the library, you should have a canvas, two brushes, a thicker brush and a thinner brush, and you should have six paint pots. So there's two green because the majority of the canvas will be green, black, red, white, and yellow. So this is really all you'll need to create our canvas, our poppy canvas. I do suggest if you have like an old cup, old yogurt cup, old ice cream cup, filling it with water so you can clean your brushes in between and in between changing colors. And also if you have like a paper towel, or you could use an old rag to dab off and wipe your brushes with as well. I like to paint. You don't have to do this. You can just use the paint in the paint pots, but I like putting the paint on a flat surface. I have an old plastic disposable plate that I'm using. I like doing that so I can mix, I can add a little water on a flat surface versus in the paint pots. So I might suggest you doing that too. Also, I've covered my surface with some scratch paper as well. So as I paint, I don't have to worry about damaging the table. So let's begin. I always like adding a little bit of water to my brush, not too much. You don't want it dripping wet. And we're gonna just start with green. So as you can see, I'm just making it a little bit wet. It goes on the canvas easier. And then I'm just doing long vertical strokes. Also, this is acrylic paint, if you add a little water to dilute it, the paint will go further. So you'll get more out of your paint as well. And by diluting some of the paint, but not all of it, see this is not diluted with water, you can create some different textures too. What I also like to do is if you want to create even more texture in your background, I just dipped my paintbrush in a little white. You could do it in a little black if you wanted it a darker green background, maybe even a little bit of yellow if you wanted more of a yellowish background as well. So right now we're just getting that background nice and filled in with these long vertical strokes. Again, you can add texture wherever you'd like. And as you can see, some of these strokes I'm using the diluted green paint, that watered down green paint. Some of these strokes I'm using just the dark green. Gonna add a little white too. You're just creating depth and texture. And this acrylic paint, it is washable. If you get it on your fingers, it will come off with soap and water, but you might not want to paint in fancy clothes. So if you do get it on your clothing, it's not guaranteed to come out, so you might just want to paint in some grubbier clothes. What I might do, I might just do a little bit of black too, to just create just a little bit of shadow. That got a little bit too black for my liking, but we can just always wash our brush off a bit and get a little more green and we'll be good to go. but it almost adding this texture, it almost makes it look like grass, like different blades and shades of grass. All right, so there, as you can see, I'm just gonna add a bit more green on the edges. Make sure I don't see any of the white of that canvas. All right, so then we have our background, and it's kind of a little bit glary on my end, but it's green. You can do darker green, you can do lighter green. Just really have fun with that background. The illusion you want to create is definitely one of like grass for sure. And then I would rinse off your big brush because we will use that later. And then you can just set it to dry. And next, or if you want to use it for mixing, because next we're going to mix a few colors, you can go ahead and do that too. So next we want to create a little bit of a darker green for our stems. So I'm mixing green and I'm going to mix black. And this might take a little trial and error to get the color you want. Again, I would add some water to dilute it. See, for me, that's much too black. So that's a little bit better, a little more green. And don't be afraid, I'm just squeezing out my brush. Don't be afraid to get dirty. That's part of painting as well. So I do recommend having some paper towels close by. All right, so I got a green that's a little bit darker. It's going to show up nicely against the background of our grass. So I have my green, and then what you're going to do from the bottom up, you're going to create stems. So however many you'd like, different lengths, kind of swooping in different directions. I did about 6 or 7 on my first canvas. So it's really up to you. And they can be different widths and different height. And I am using the thinner brush. If you would want to use the thicker brush, that'd be totally fine as well. You can really make it your own. So we're just making stems right now. As you can see, I just like working with paint when it's a little bit more watered down. So every once in a while, just adding just a little bit of water. You might like working with it if it's a little bit thicker. That's totally up to you. Okay, so now you can see we have our stems. Good job, friends. So what we're gonna do next is we're just gonna add some leaves. So you can kind of choose, I think I'll do leaves on a couple of the stems at the top, and then maybe one down at the bottom to kind of just distribute them evenly. I'm gonna do 3. Still with that same kind of darker green. If you want to add more leaves or buds, that's totally fine. That's totally up to you. So first I'm going to take the edge of my little paintbrush and just kind of paint a leaf outline, and then I'm going to fill it in. So I just use the edge to do the outline, and now I'm filling it in. Just using that edge, filling her in. Then I think I'll do a leaf right down here as well. All right, so now we have our leaves. Next, before we move on to the flowers, because the next step is the flowers, we're going to add just a few little accents to the leaf. So we're going to use yellow. So I would dilute your yellow. So get some water and just get it almost watercolory. So if you can see here, I'm getting it watery. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently go up the stems to just add a little color. You don't have to do this step if you like the stems that dark, kind of that dark green. That's totally fine. You can absolutely keep it that way. I just kind of like adding a bit of color, add some color to the leaves. It just gives it a little bit more depth or texture for sure. But again, this is yours. This is your project. You can gift it to whoever you'd like or keep it for yourself. So I'm just adding a bit of those highlights. All right, so there are leaves. Do a little, and we can add more highlights later as well. So now what we're going to do is really clean off that brush. Besides yellow, if you wanted to make your, I'm going to use a little bit of like watered down black. If you wanted to make your leaves and stem a little bit darker perhaps, you can always add that texture too. That's kind of fun as well. Really the goal of this project is obviously to create something that you like, but it's also to just have fun with painting. Okay, so now we're going to create our poppies. Actually, I'm going to quick even that out a bit. There. All right, now we're going to create our poppies. So I'm really going to clean my brush because we're going to use our red. So again, I'm going to dilute it a little bit. I just like, it's easier for me to work with paint. It has just a little bit of water in it. And we're going to create our poppy flowers. So I'll start up here on the tallest one. It might be easiest for you to see, and then we'll go do the other flowers. But a poppy flower looks like 4 little hearts connected at the points. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the edge of my brush and just paint 4 hearts. Just kind of the outline. They don't have to be perfect hearts. But the points will kind of meet at the stem. So there'll be 2 hearts somewhat above the stem and 2 hearts a bit below the stem. Again, these hearts do not have to look perfect. Just enjoy and take your time. And I'm painting this all in one go. If you wanted to take time in between, that's totally fine. I'm going to turn this a little bit because I can get it at a better angle. And that's true too. If you're working at home, you can turn your canvas if it helps you. To just get a better angle at what you're painting. All right, so there are our 4 hearts. If you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, and the points meet kind of at the top of the stem. So next what we're going to do is we're just going to fill those in. So we're going to get more red and just fill those in. And I'm getting paint on me, which is very normal. I'm just turning this a little bit so I can get the edge. When I paint, I really like to move my paper or my canvas all around. Sometimes I stick my face like really close to it too. Also when I draw. It's just a habit. I'm sure we all create art a little differently. Okay, so there's our first poppy flower, if you can see. And now I'm going to do that on a few more of these flowers. You can create as many or as few poppies as you'd like. It's totally up to you. But yeah, let's make a few more. And here I'm just, because it's not a lot of space, I'm just going to do like a few, like a little baby poppy. Just a little one. Maybe one that's just beginning to bud. And then we'll add a few more over here. All right, and we just have one little poppy left. And then we're going to add some accents and highlights. You guys are doing such a great job. We're almost done. Okay, so now we have our poppy flowers. I'm going to rinse off my brush. Beautiful flowers. So next what we're going to do is add a few accents before we finish up the flowers and add our frames. So similar to the stems, we're just going to add a bit of color. So you can, if you wanted to do yellow, that'd be fine. If you wanted darker flowers, you could absolutely do that. I'm going to do white. So to accent this, I'm going to get it really kind of watery. And then I'm just going to kind of go around the edges of the flowers like that. Again, this is just to give our flowers just a bit of texture. So we have that beautiful texture, those poppy flowers. If you want, you can just kind of, got a couple of spots that were like super white. I kind of like the more pinkish tone. So those are our poppy flowers. Now we're going to create the center of our flower, and it's super easy to create the center. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the tip of our small brush, and we're just going to really get it in that yellow. Just really blop it in there, and then we're going to just make a circle. Okay, and we're going to do that for all of our flowers. So this is, you can think of this as the center of the poppy. It's kind of like the seeds. Okay, and then we're going to clean off the back of that brush. And we're going to dip in our black and just add some dots in the center. And you can kind of spread out the paint, just kind of creating a black circle in the center, and you can wash off the back of your brush. The last thing, you don't have to do this, but if you want with your flowers, you can kind of accentuate them more by giving them a black outline. So what I'm going to do, you can use, I still have a little bit of like blackish green paint. I might use that. You might dilute it a little bit with water, and then you're going to take the side of your brush and you're just going to add a little border. You don't have to go all the way around your petals. It just kind of makes your flowers stand out a little bit more. All right, so there are poppy flowers. They look gorgeous. If there's any other accents you want to do, you absolutely can. Like if you still have color, like I still have a ton of yellow, a ton of white. Now we're going to make the frame. So the frame is totally up to you. If you wanted, I might actually add a few accents of green. I think that would be fun. Just adding some green that is not darkened by our black. I have some green left too, so you can go ahead and use as much paint as you want. And sometimes it's easier, like some of this paint is already starting to dry. Sometimes it's easier to add accents when the paint has dried a bit. It's not so wet. So just have fun with it, friends. Okay, so now what I would do for the frame, and you can do this differently, it's totally up to you. I'm going to use my thick brush, and I'm going to clean it off. It's very wet because I left it in the water. I probably shouldn't have done that. So I'm going to clean it off. It doesn't need to be super wet. And for the frame, I'm going to use black. So Again, you can use whatever color you want, whatever you have left over. I have plenty of black left over. So, but I'm also going to dilute it again just so it's like, it'll go on the canvas a bit easier. So I'm going to get it wet, not super wet, because you want it to stick. But I'm going to get my brush pretty covered, as you can see. And this is going to be a messy part. So, because you'll have to lift up the canvas. And so we're going to do the frame. And I'm going to start at the bottom. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Then I'm going to turn it to get a better angle. So it's just our little frame. I'm going to get some more black. And my black's starting to get a little bit diluted, a little bit watery. So I'm going to try to make sure I can get black all around the edges. And there you have it, friends. That is your Poppy paint along. Again, if you would have rather, done a more colorful garden, a rainbow garden, that would have been totally fine too. If you wanted to add more flowers, you could absolutely do that as well. But thank you for joining me for this paint along, and I would love to see pictures of your finished products. So if you want to take a picture and share with us on our social media page or email us at yservices staff@lacrosselibrary.org. We would love that as well. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you next month for another Makers Monday with Miss Abby. Have a great rest of your day, friends. Enjoy. Bye-bye.